You have 24 hours a day. Organize your day. Work hard. I'm here to talk about success.
Welcome to Electric Theory.
You've arrived at your destination.
Electric Theory is a public research engine behind Bolt Human Capital. We record virtually with leaders across the hospitality and service industry. Audio quality varies by guest. The conversation never does. Guests appear as independent voices. Their views do not represent their employers or affiliated organizations. Stay electric. Welcome back to Electric Theory. Today's guest is Guy Strong. And that's right, I said his name correctly, Guy Strong. What an incredible name, first off. But he brings over a decade of leadership experience in high-volume hospitality operations to his role as regional director at the Hampton Social, part of Parker Hospitality. Based in Nashville, he oversees a multi-state restaurant performance, guiding teams to deliver consistent, high-touch guest experience while embracing local market dynamics. Previously, with industry icons like Ruth and P.F. Chang's, Guy has built leadership philosophy that flips the traditional top-down model on its head. His approach prioritizes trusting local leadership, hiring for cultural alignment over resume credentials, and customizing operations to meet market needs, from menu autonomy to tech-enabled efficiency. At the Hampton Social, Guy is at the forefront of brand rapid national expansion, helping bring its coastal escape worth celebrating vibe to new markets like Denver and Dallas, and also Atlanta. Whether navigating the hiring challenges of Nashville or capturing local talent in the competitive new regions, his work reflects people-first mindset combined with operational precision. Welcome, Guy.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's jump right on in. So you mentioned from a hiring standpoint, your hiring philosophy centers around culture fit. Do we like this person? How has that approach shaped retention and performance in fast-moving markets like Nashville?
Yeah, it's very competitive here. Obviously, I think there's more jobs than people to work them. And you have to be able to get along with everybody, right? And that level of maturity comes with experience and time. Some people are born with it. Most people are not,
Right.
from what I can tell anyway. But it's getting the right people in there, just like when you try to fix your car. You're trying to find the right tools that'll work and do exactly what you need, and that they get along and play well together. That's of the utmost importance.
Right. Coming from brands with more of a top-down leadership style, how did you learn to let go and just trust local operators, especially with teams that are like 18,000 miles away, if you will?
Yeah, it was tough for me specifically when I became GM of Hampton Social in 2019 in Nashville. It was very much the opposite of what I was used to in my career. It was that there was a lot of autonomy given to me, sometimes unspoken autonomy. I would just have to, ask forgiveness before permission.
Right.
But yeah, I tried to use that experience and all the things that I learned during that time when I'm dealing with my other GMs, like when I'm doing other things from, like you say, thousands of miles away. I'm trying to support them in whatever way I can from this distance, but in the same way, I want to be there for them emotionally, because it can be a real tough job sometimes.
What are some of those ways that you're there for whether your staff emotionally or even just from a sounding board, if you will? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, there's the sounding board. I'll start with that. I love that phrase, that
Yeah.
term. The emotions of a restaurant, it's not your typical business. No level does it operate like anything else.
Right.
And if you don't have that release somewhere, whether it be to your superior or your people on the peripheral, you have to be able to be available for them and listen. There may not always be a solution immediately. There may not always be the answer that you want, but just having that connection and being able to talk to somebody, and they're not just a talking head, right? They're actually interested in what's going on in your life. That's been very crucial to our success here. From the hiring standpoint, yeah, it's just what we said earlier. It's not complicated, but sometimes people make it complicated.
Right. Yeah. When you think about, I guess going back to that sounding board, was it something that you've had to experience yourself where you didn't really have a place to release, that you realized that that was important for employees, or did you just learn over time, or what was your, I guess, experience that led to that philosophy?
I like that question. So I'm like late Generation X. I was born in 1980.
Okay.
And in my mind, I've never really needed that. I never really needed to get things off my chest. It's always just come naturally, or sometimes I just keep it internal and
All right.
everything's fine.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the new generations are a little bit different. They operate much differently. They expect different things. So I've had to mold that. I've had to really adjust how I look at being that person for them. It's not it's not something that everybody needs, I think, to a high level, but the emotionally driven jobs and the fact that it's such a social environment that they're in, you got to be able to let some stress out sometimes.
Yeah. No, it is very interesting that like the gap in generations and what previous generations needed, and if you even take it a step back, what boomers needed, a lot of people within that generation, boomers, if you will, would say millennials or Gen Z, they just need to suck it up and work. That doesn't seem to be your stance. It seems you just said the word mold, which I just think of agility. How have you shown agility, or how have you helped empower your team to be agile in such a time as this?
Yeah, I think I told you the other day when we were talking that I didn't know what I was getting into
Yeah.
when I started this journey.
Yeah.
And you can go all the way back to the beginning. I didn't, when I got my first management job in 2003, I did not expect to be sitting here 23 years later in the position I'm in. But
Yeah.
it didn't take long for me to want that. It didn't take long for me to want to get there.
Yeah.
And with the new generations being how they are, like they want the same thing, and the trust factor is not there at all. Like they don't trust the boss to
Yeah.
save their life,
Yeah.
but they'll trust a friend.
Yep. Yep. It's very interesting. It is. It's very interesting as it relates to trust, because trust is it's counterintuitive as it relates to how employees are engaged and also how they even treat guests. What are ways to maybe mend that trust that you've found to be successful in your career?
Having the really cool, calm, heart to heart conversations in the moment. I have certain areas of the restaurant that I hang out in when I'm there,
Yep.
and I'm just picking people's brains. I'm just seeing how they're doing, asking what's going on with their kids,
Yeah.
everything good with the wife. You just have to be that. You have to be asking those questions all the time.
Right.
And whether you really mean them or not, or whether you're really concerned,
Yeah.
a lot of people can fake things like that. But the staff that I have specifically here sees right through that. I had a couple of managers come through that were very much just a talking head and very much not there for the team when they needed to be. And it's impossible to operate if you don't have the trust of the 250 people we have working there. It makes things really difficult.
Yeah. Authenticity is another factor of engagement. Do you feel like in your experience and in your career, in your early days, was your bosses, if you will, like authentic with you? And did you notice a difference if they were versus ones that were just like talking heads?
Yeah, technically my first restaurant job was at Macaroni Grill. I don't know if anybody remembers that place, but this was 2001, and my immediate supervisor, his name was Dave. Really, he had such a great style
Yeah.
and such a great eye for, I hesitate to say talent because I don't feel like I'm not talented, but he knew that I had the right mindset
Yeah.
to be in this position, and he showed me everything. He had an accounting background, so that was crucial to my development. Being able to talk those numbers is not something that most managers can do on a regular basis if they're not doing it.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying you can go. You can continue.
Okay. Yeah, but his name was Dave, and I consider him a best friend. We talk occasionally still.
Yeah.
He lives in Dallas.
Oh, nice.
He's just a great person. I try to be like him. I can't be exactly like him. He was just such a unique personality,
Yeah.
but I try to at least make the effort to develop people in whatever they're struggling with.
And then what are best case scenario on being able to solve for X as it relates to the issues someone may be struggling with or challenges that they may
have or opportunities that they may have? Like, how do you kind of identify those, and then how do you solve those?
Yeah, if it's a personal issue they're dealing with, sometimes time off is needed. But more, what I found more often than not is that the job allows some kind of escape in the day-to-day life. So not necessarily jumping right to conclusions and saying, hey, why don't you take a couple of days off? That may do more harm than good, depending on the situation. But I think it's a fine line that you got to walk, though. It's not something that you want to overstep. It's not something that you want to understep either, because there's quite a few different scenarios that I can play out in my head where things go really bad. The best case scenario is that somebody just is with me for the entire time that I'm in a certain business. They follow me. I've had multiple people follow me around, depending on what locations I was in, what restaurants. But being able to have that draw, I must be doing something right.
Right. You've seen high retention rates especially in these labor intensive, labor challenging markets. What are some specific tactics or cultural norms that help you keep top talent?
Yeah. Yeah, what we have to offer here, specifically in Nashville, is somewhat unheard of. The amount of business that comes in the door,
Yeah.
8 to 10,000 people a week, is really no joke, and that building takes no prisoners at all. So being able to staff that properly and get all those people in the right spot and get them mentally ready, that's key, obviously. But the end of it being, people can go 2 blocks away and make more than likely a lot more money than they do with Hampton. But it's not the environment that they want. It's Broadway. It's 3 or 4 o'clock morning, getting home at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes later. Broadway's always going to be there. That's why people come to Nashville. But we offer something different, right? We are pretty much done at 10 o'clock every night, right? We start brunch on the weekends at 9 a.m. and we're busy from the time we open the door to the time we close. And creating that environment too is necessary, because if you're not busy, if you're not managing your books right, if you're not having the right people in the right spots, guests can smell a disaster of a restaurant real quick when they walk in the door. Whereas if they see people who are confident and happy and smiling, that's a little hard to find these days in any business.
Customer service, for sure, is, I don't want to say a sinking ship, but it is trending down. And there's people like you that give me hope on customer service starting to trend back up. You mentioned putting people in the right seats, or having people in the right seats. What are some ways that you can maybe educate us on to help determine the right seat for the right candidate or the right employee?
Yeah, I would say this is a direct question. Where do you want to be in 2, 5, 10 years, right?
Right.
Like, where do you want to be sitting?
Yeah.
And that tells you what direction you need to go in. If it's a sous chef that wants to become like an executive chef or something above where he's at, you take them and expose them to all the things that the executive chefs do, right? And at some point, everybody's going to struggle with some subject, but those are the ones that you need to focus on, right? Some people can work numbers and talk financials all day long. Some people are really good with people. They're a good conversationalist.
Right.
And to be able to hone in on what the actual needs are, I don't think the person always knows really
Yep.
where they're struggling. So asking the questions and just saying, okay, this is what this looks like. In a year, you need to be here. In 2 years, you need to be here. Hopefully it's with me at a certain restaurant, but I've had internal promotions move on to other positions much higher than they were with me. So it's hard to lose people like that, but it's just the way the world goes.
Right. Well, Guy, where do you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years?
I am extremely content in the position that I'm in.
Yeah.
I would want to have more responsibility and a bigger voice in the company.
Okay.
Not that I don't right now, but I'm still in the operations side of things.
Right.
I don't do any directives. I don't really dictate any kind of policies. But when I'm asked my opinion on things like that, I have no problem telling people exactly what I think. And I think that will get me to the next level, whatever the next level is. I'm about, I don't know, 5th or 6th in the chain of command, technically, when it comes to the hierarchy of the restaurants,
Yeah.
the home office. But I don't think anybody really sees me as the one who's not going to be there for a long time and be very good at what I do. It's tough to say that anyone can do this job on a regular basis. but being able to find those things that you're struggling with, just ask the question.
Yep. Yep. Beautiful. I'm glad I got to ask that question because I was curious, and maybe you haven't been asked that question in a while to really, fully think about it. And like I said, like you said, a lot of people don't necessarily know what that looks like for them until they're asked. And then when they ask, those marbles start working, those neurons start firing off, and you're like, you know what? I actually haven't thought about it in a while. Like, now, let me think about it. Yeah, where would you say your philosophy on leadership and culture came from? Because I know that you said you've only spent a decade or a little bit more than a decade in hospitality. Where were you at before that? And then, like, where do you feel like those qualities and traits came from?
I think a lot back to my childhood about the environment my father created at his business.
Okay.
You're in a sheet metal fabrication plant in Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And he probably had, I don't know, 50, 60 people working for him at any given time. And they loved him. They would do anything for him because he cared about them. And he did the things that we've been talking about so far just naturally.
Yeah.
People wanted to be around him. That's really what laid the foundation for how I operate now.
Wow. Love will do it. Love will change the game. What's that book called? I think the book is called Love as a Change Agent. There's a book that I'm reading. I can't remember it. We'll have to edit that clip out. But I will say that when it comes to leading people, leading with love, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna win, right? Because people want to work for someone who genuinely cares for them. And you mentioned it earlier about the talking heads. The authentic approach to leading someone should be love, right? At the tip of the spear, because that's who someone's going to go to battle with. That's who someone's going to serve and go the extra mile, right? Because they know that person is going to do that. How do you, or what would you say to leaders who may not think that way and may think that, hey, I only care about these particular KPIs or these performas, the person is secondary? What advice would you give that person if they were to be like, hey, I want some advice?
Yeah, you have to make the effort, right? It's not really optional to not be this way nowadays. If you want to move up in any business, you have to be approachable. But for people who think that they're not, I think on some level, I don't really see myself as very approachable sometimes, but they tell me differently. I'm not the talking head, right? I sometimes stumble over my words and sometimes sound like have no idea what I'm talking about, but it's a genuine message that I'm delivering, and people tend to lock in on that. So be genuine with your delivery. That would be my biggest word of advice. Like, if you don't buy it, they're not going to buy it. So you have to say things in the right tone, obviously,
Right.
but getting your emotion across to them is crucial.
Got it. What's something that excites you these days? It's one of the reasons you wake up every morning.
Oh, I've got a beautiful wife sitting right outside my room here.
That's right.
We moved into a new house just under a year ago, and
Nice.
are working on some things, getting new air conditioners and permanent Christmas lights put on the front. But being able to spend time with her, that's 100% what gets me going in the morning.
Wow.
I couldn't have asked for a better person, much less a wife, to spend the rest of my life with.
Wow, that was beautiful. Makes me want to text my wife right now and say, hey, I miss you. But it's true. It makes sense that you are that way, and that was your answer, because I've asked this question before, and it was actually sad to a gentleman that I asked and was like, who would you call when there's no one else to call, or this really challenging solution? Like, who would you call? And he was just like, he didn't have an answer. And I just felt, man, like, we are created and meant for love, and I think that, and for service, right? So those things go hand in hand, which is why I feel like you have a fulfilling life. It just sounds like that. You do come off as someone who's genuine, and those people, in my experience, are typically people who are fulfilled, right? Like, they don't have to try to overshare or overprove who they are. They're just who they are, and you seem really confident in like who you are. What advice would you give to someone who's like looking to be that poised as and confident and a great leader like yourself?
I would suggest, and this is a big one, put yourself in those uncomfortable situations as many times as you can, and they'll become less uncomfortable.
Yeah.
be it talking to large groups, which I struggled with for the first half of my career, and I still do to some extent. But putting yourself in that spot, your body gets used to it. Your brain starts to work in the ways that you want it to. And don't be afraid to take that leap and go out there and tell people what's on your mind.
Yeah. Could you get a little deeper in or practicality on the putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation?
Yeah. If it's something like speaking to large groups, I would say that's a good example because that plays out frequently.
Yeah.
But smaller groups as well. You got to be able to customize your message when there's only a couple of people listening. But I would say the biggest part of it is, getting the right tone of voice. I think that's crucial because if you're yelling at someone, they're not going to listen.
Yeah.
If your tone is harsh, they're not even going to engage with you.
That's very true. It's very common in the hospitality industry, especially in F&B, right? It's just a high intensity, high anxiety, and you have chefs yelling at each other and whatnot. But yeah, no, before we wrap up, I would love to hear either your favorite quote that comes to mind or the values or principles that you live by.
Well, my favorite quote, there's quite a few out there, I'll go back to my dad. He had a lot of one-liners.
Yeah.
He had something for any situation chambered. And I jokingly say this, don't expect too much and you won't be too disappointed. That was something that he said frequently. And it wasn't to say that you're limiting your expectations. It's saying, hey, don't expect people to operate the same way or the way that you want them to and have communicated to them. They're probably not going to do that.
Right.
And the exceptions that they do, that's great. But you use the times that they're not as teachable moments.
Right. Yeah. Nope. Couldn't agree more. Wow. This was great. Like I said, it was a very well-spoken, very direct, guy strong, everybody. The next exec, that's when I'm predicting it. I'm predicting next exec moving up in the ranks because everyone needs a guy strong in their life where they're able to really just hear genuine messaging, understanding people first, understanding the authenticity is what drives that and drives brands too as well. I think that's very important at the top. So thanks so much for your time, and we'll be signing off.
Thanks, Josh.
Yes, sir. Take care,
Sounds
brother.
good. Thanks, Josh.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye. This episode is supported by the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program at Dallas College. If you're building a service-driven organization and want culture to become a measurable performance lever, visit bolthumancapital.com. Until next time, strengthen leadership, protect culture, and scale reliability.